All right, everything. We're back. This is episode 27, correct, Jack?
26.
26. And we have Dad on the podcast with us today.
Hey.
And for everybody that doesn't know, a lot of people, you're called Dad by mostly everybody, right?
Well, it was one of those things where I didn't have a label, and I got my cheese spreads in Liquor Barn all of a sudden out of nowhere, and the guy interviewed me because I didn't even have a label.
Yeah.
And I've got two sons. They're 6 years apart, so I've coached all over Lexington.
So everybody knew you as Dad.
Basketball, baseball, and soccer. And at the time that I was coaching in the 80s, there was a lot of single parent.
Okay.
So a lot of the kids would show up
And just call you Dad.
Didn't have a ride home, and I'd take them to my house and open up my refrigerator, and it was when there was no cell phone, so it was a landline.
Okay.
And they'd call their mom and say, "Hey, can you come get me at Dad's?" Or "I'm at Coach's. Can you come get me?"
Right. And that's how you got the name Dad.
Yeah, and they were, and, it was anywhere from, I coached one of the guys that works for me. I've coached him when he was 5.
Yeah.
And now he's still with me.
Really?
And he's 43.
That's
Still
awesome.
call you Dad?
He calls me James. But back then in the day, I just remember, and when he was 5, I was coaching soccer, and he had these neon, gloves,
Right.
and a mullet, big white mullet.
80s,
And he's just hanging out. He's, I got this, And then he ended up going into soccer. My older son went into baseball, and my younger son played football. So it was kind of one of those things.
What was your favorite thing to coach?
Actually, the best coaching job that I really enjoyed was T-ball.
T-ball?
And I coached a team at, and I think it was the first one in the city, at Adelar Park, and I had 2 kids in a wheelchair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a really good season.
I'm sure it was a blast.
Oh, it was great.
T-ball's fun though, because it's not always have to be serious.
No,
You know,
and
so
it was laughable.
yeah, it's just fun for all the kids.
I had the umpire one day. He's hanging on, and one of my kids came running in from the outfield. Little black fellow that I had, I can't think of his name right now, but he comes running in. Well, he took the ball off the tee, and he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Mama, I'm hot." And it's like, what? And everybody in the stands were laughing and carrying on. And she goes, "Well, go on back out there." He said, "Okay." And he took off running back out there, and they were all picking, dandelions and throwing rocks at each other and playing.
That's T-ball
it was T-ball.
Yeah.
And it was about getting their attention and doing all that. And it was so much fun.
Yeah, you're just trying to learn the basics, right?
Yeah.
So T-ball was your favorite out of everything that you've ever
Well, that
coached?
was one of them. And then my younger son, my older son was playing baseball, and we were at Tate's Creek, and it was coach pitch.
Okay.
And we were winning. We were doing great. And, I taught him how to run the bases and all this stuff, and we were running everything and doing everything right. Well, at the very last minute, 2 of my guys, a brother and 2 brothers, were from Chicago.
Okay.
And they were going to leave for the summer for the championship game.
Right.
So we were out. Didn't have enough players.
Yeah, you're just stuck.
And so I just put everybody together, and we shifted the whole infield to one side.
Oh, wow.
And so we had a first baseman. We had no third baseman.
Okay.
And everybody was shifted this way.
Mm-hmm.
So because everybody was getting around late, usually, and they would sit to the right field.
Side.
And we ended up winning the game.
Really?
And it was great.
That's awesome.
And the other coaches were mad. And, we play to win, but we play also to have fun.
Right, and to teach basics.
And a lot of the parents were taking it too serious. And, it's just, okay, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's kind of like we've learned how to do over the years is, be a Marine, improvise.
Right.
Just figure out what you're going to do, figure it out.
Yeah, that's one thing about children's sports is it's so unexpected. Anything can really happen.
It can, and it will. The other one, I coached my younger son in basketball, and we were in a city league, and it was one of those leagues where it was 13, 14, and 15.
Right, so it's 3 age groups.
And we had all 13-year-olds.
Oh, wow. So
the first season, we didn't win a game. I think we might have won one, but it was if we won one. And the second year, we won a few more. And the third year, we had first pick.
Stacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had pretty much all 14 and 15-year-olds, and we were ready to play. And there was 2 kids that came through the draft, and they were both out of Windburn.
Okay.
And some of the other coaches were kind of going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Right.
One of them was 15. He was dunking the ball. And nobody picked him up. And I said, "Thurman, will you play for me?" He said, "Yes, sir, I will." I said, "Will you come to practice?" He said, "Yes, sir, I will." I said, "All right, you're in." And there was another little guy named Steven, and he was a shooter. And he never saw a shot he didn't like.
Just shoot everything.
I finally had to tone that down a little bit. I said, "Okay, you got to at least pass the ball at least twice."
The hoop was this big for him.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And well, it never went through like that. But anyway, I said, "Steven, will you play for me?" He said, "Yes, sir, I will." I said, "Will you come to practice?" He said, "No, sir, I don't have a ride." I said, "Well," because he's a single parent. I said, "Well, if one of the coaches come get you, will you be ready and will you go with us?" He goes, "I'd love to." He said, "I really want to play for you, coach."
That's awesome.
So we went and picked him up, and we didn't lose a game.
Really, undefeated.
And in the last game of the season in our league, we had already beat this team once before. We had to play them again. Well, I had two kids that didn't show up that had something else going on, and I had one of my young ones, the 13, that showed up late. And normally you have to play everybody.
Right, you were short.
But
players.
I was able to stagger them.
Oh, so the
I could
good
get
players.
a young player in, but I had enough older players that could help.
Right.
Well, I had to put him in when he came in.
Oh, okay.
And I had some other young players, and one of my main guys was out. So we ended up losing by a couple points. And I said, "Well, that's just how it goes." But we went on to go to the city tournament. Well, the other coach and I, was Dave Nykirk. He was a great guy. His son was playing. And I had another guy that was playing that could not hit a layup.
Really? That's
But
frustrating.
But by the end of the season, I had him doing, shoots from both sides of the room. I said, "You got to make at least 20. You shoot over here. You're right here under the basket."
Right.
And he was making them. And I said, "Now, you get a hip on somebody, and you keep that between you and the basket."
Right.
He rebounded everything that came down. He hit every layup that was made. Anyway, we get over to Jesse Clark. And this team hadn't been beaten all season.
Jesse Clark?
In like 3 years. They
Yeah.
were just killing everybody. So we said, "Okay, guys, we're going to press this team when they get off the bus.
Yep.
And if we get up by 10, you had to back the press off."
Okay.
So here they come. They come down the court.
You're ready.
We're already on them.
Right.
And one of my guys, the guy that couldn't hit a layup, he was my spy.
Okay.
So I had two guys out, and as soon as they threw the ball over, he ran in and got it.
Intercept.
And he'd pass it off, and they'd pass it back to him. He'd lay it in.
Right. That's good having a player like that.
So then we were up by 10 in like no time.
Okay.
And their parents were getting
Mad.
mad. And because they'd never been pressed like that.
It's difficult. Like I've played basketball for a lot of my life, and it's difficult, especially if you don't have a team that knows how to play through a press.
Right.
When you're going up
can't
against
get
press, you
inbounds.
can't do anything.
No,
Yeah.
they'd never been pressed.
Yeah. So that's difficult.
So then I said, "Okay, we got to back the press off, pick them up at the half-court line."
yeah.
So the next thing, we're up about 30, and I said, "Okay, back off." And their coach was coming unglued. The stands were coming unglued. I said, "We're not taking any chances. We still got 3 quarters left."
Right. I wouldn't either.
So I said, "We're not backing it off." And they're saying, "You need to back off." And
We're winning this game.
We're we've been beat up for 3 years. We're not doing that again.
Right.
So when they came out, well, one of their players got mad and took his shirt off. Well, they threw him out of the game. Well, then his parents got mad. They threw him out of the game, or threw him out. And I said,
That
"Okay,
sucks.
guys, let's cruise." But when coach gives you the press signal, you press.
Right. Right.
And we ended up winning by like 20.
Oh wow.
But still, we won the city that year.
Really? Well, I mean, you beat Jesse Clark, which is
Well, it wasn't.
Team.
It was a city league. It wasn't
Right.
Jesse Clark.
Oh, okay.
So all those kids went to Jesse Clark. All my kids went to
Winburn.
Leestown, and it was kind of in between Winburn and, the Valley and a couple
Right.
other places. So we had a really good team, and they would play for me, and one of them would do something. I'd say, "Come over and have a seat. Just sit down right here beside me." And Dave was walking the sideline, and I said, "I got this." I said, "Look," and I'd have a little talk with him. I said, "You can't just throw the ball up there every time you get it, Stephen." I said, "Pass it and then get you a good shot."
Right.
And then when he did what I asked him to do, and he
started
hit
hitting
it, I called timeout. I said, "Stephen, see what happens?"
Right.
I said, "And you're always coaching."
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to spoil the moment, but I wanted to build the moment.
Right, exactly.
And from then on, the rest of the games, he figured it out. If I can just get one more pass in, I can get open and I can take that shot.
Is that one of your favorite parts about being a coach, is just seeing the players develop?
Oh, it's great. And I think, with the deli, that's kind of what we've done too.
Right, you hire somebody new.
And they come in, they start in the dish tank. Everybody starts in the tank.
Old-fashioned way.
And I don't care. I'm a chef. Well, you still got to show me you can do dishes.
Right.
Okay.
Because if
I
I
like
get
that.
if you get a dirty dish, you take it back to the guy in the tank and you let him know, hey, this ain't getting it.
Right.
And if you train the guy, then I'm gonna come back to you and say, okay, now you trained that guy to get out of
What's
the tank.
up? Yeah,
what are
right.
you doing?
No, that's cool.
And then you learn how to do, step by step, and then everybody else is giving the guy the business that doesn't do it right in the tank.
Right, that he
Because
trained.
they know, and we all give each other, but it's all in good fun, and everybody has fun with it, and nobody takes it too serious.
You all have a great environment there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think you all do a really good job at, keeping it very family friendly, keeping everything going at a good pace. The other day I was in there, and I'm not joking, there was probably 100 people in line, and you all got it in there. You all got through
They
it
know
quick.
how to hump it. But
That was awesome.
That's the only problem with this business. It's labor intensive.
Yeah.
And, I've got 12 guys working. And there's 12 of us in there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And we're humping it out. We'll probably see 300 people in the course of 4 hours.
I do have a quick question. Why did you choose those hours?
Yeah.
For any reason
We
in
did.
particular?
See, we were never going to be in that business.
Right.
And what happened, the business kind of dictates how you're going to do business,
Okay.
if you look at it that way. So I said, well, we'll put one table out front.
Right.
We've got a line of cheese spreads that we had to have a place to make because I was making it in my basement.
So at first it wasn't even supposed to be a sandwich shop. It was really
No.
just your manufacturing
Right.
spot.
And we got into Kroger, so I had to have a place to make it.
Okay.
And I had a commercial kitchen in my basement. However, once we got Kroger's, I said, okay, we got to get a bigger
You
space.
got to
Yeah.
up the production, right?
So we moved there in 2009, and I'm big on dates. 10-10-10, October 10th, 2010. We set one table out front, came up with a real simple menu that we've got 6 different cheese spreads.
And are those the original 6 that you all
Those
have
are
every
the
day?
original 6.
That's awesome.
And what happens is, because it's real cheese, it melts and stays on the toasted bread. If you open it up, some of these cheese spreads you'll see, you could open it up and turn it upside down, it'll pour out.
Right.
That's not, there's
Not
too
real
much
cheese.
process, and there's too much goo in there. So this is, you got to let it sit for a minute just so that you can even spread it. It's
Right.
almost like block cheese. And so what we were doing at home, we were doing a sandwich with our cheese spread on it.
Yeah.
You throw some ham on that smoky pimento or whatever you want to do and have a sandwich.
Right.
Well, we were making cheese spreads there, and the barber at the time and the lady in alterations came over being nosy one day.
Yeah.
What are y'all doing in here? And I said, well, we make these cheese spreads, and we got them in Kroger's, and now we're doing farmers markets, and so we built the business.
Right, for the cheese spreads in
Yeah,
particular.
because now we were doing 5 farmers markets. We were doing 2 in Lexington, 2 in Louisville, and the Findlay Market in downtown Cincinnati.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know at the beginning that you all were just a cheese spread.
Yeah.
And then you transitioned to a sandwich shop.
Well, we figured it out. They said, well, why don't, they said, if you've seen our deli, you see the part up front.
Yeah.
It was already divided off, and one of the people that came over, the barber, the alterations, Martha, she said, well, what are you going to do with this front part?
Make some sandwiches.
And I said, well, we're going to paper up the windows, use it for storage. They go, we got a great business in here. And you go out and look in that hallway. There was nobody. You can look out both ends. Nothing
Not
going
a single
on.
person.
And I said, nah, I don't know. They go, we got a good business in here. And I'm going, I don't know. They said, well, we eat out every day. Why don't you do a soup and sandwich? So boys and I started thinking. We said, okay, we make a sandwich at home. Let's try something with our cheese spreads.
Right.
So we came up with that real simple menu that's on the 1 through 6.
Okay.
A different cheese, different bread, different meat on each one of those sandwiches.
Okay.
And then the number 7 came out because we started getting a lot of calls for veggies. So I said, okay, we'll have a number 7, and it's a veggie, and you can have any of the cheese you want on it.
Right.
And then they said, well, what about a grilled cheese? I said, okay, there's the
You
number
gotta
8.
add something else. Right.
So there now, any of those cheeses can be on a grilled cheese. You can get it on white or wheat toast, and there you go.
And it just started booming after that.
Well, we set one table out there, and the next thing you know, there's 20 tables in that hallway.
Really?
It was all word of mouth.
Yes.
Nobody, we don't advertise. We would give out flyers at the farmer's market saying we're open, we got a little deli.
Right.
One person would come, and next thing you know, I tell everybody, this is one of those places where you bring a friend,
And they tell a friend.
and you tell a friend,
yeah.
and next time you show up, who all's here?
Yep.
All your friends.
Exactly.
And that's what it was.
And
And it's continued to be that way. So.
That's exactly how I heard about it. A
So
friend
who
told
brought
me.
you first time?
I can't remember the person, but I will say this: I have probably told 20 people about
Exactly.
it. It's awesome, and I think that's so great because that's how you could almost say yours is like a hole in the wall shop.
Oh, it is.
But that's
Oh,
why it's so great. You know what I mean? Because it's not like overrun with it's not like a fast food. You know what I mean? It's
I told the boys, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're not buying stuff off a truck and heating and eating.
yeah,
This is stuff that we make,
Yeah.
or we don't serve it.
that's awesome.
And
That's
we
great.
cut all the meats fresh that morning, portion them out, set them aside. And at the end of the day, if we have to go back and cut more roast beef or more ham or whatever, turkey,
Yeah.
then we'll do it. Otherwise, all those other specials are made that night before.
for that in particular day.
Yeah. So
Right.
on the Mondays we do a farmhouse. It's a pineapple chutney chicken salad, and we got the pineapple chutney from a local chutney maker, and we make the chicken that morning. But that's how we get the broth for all the soups for the
all the
rest of the
soup.
week.
That's awesome.
So you got to work everything into it. Now I'll tell you another little story about the making the soups. So we were making it on the stove.
Right.
All right.
Like how you normally would
Yeah,
make soup.
and my son was making the soups. I was making the soups, and then somebody cut my shirt tail off one day. One of the firemen said, "Hey, who made the chili today?" And I said, "Jeff did." And they said, "Oh, that's why it was so good." So I took the soup pan. I said, "It's now yours." So you're the soup maker.
Right.
And I swear he can smell it and tell you what it needs.
Really.
Oh, he's that good.
He's the
one-
ratatouille of your kitchen.
all according to his own recipes. And when he does something, I said, "Well, I hope you wrote the recipe down." He goes, "Job security, Dad."
That's awesome.
He goes, "No recipe."
That's real talent, though. As
he
a
knows
chef,
exactly
yeah,
what
that's
it is.
that's real talent because a lot of people they cannot do that. Like, I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't even consider myself a cook, so
No.
I'm a little different. But I could not do that. I could not just try something and then be like, oh, this is what it needs, this is what it doesn't need. You know what I mean?
Well, and my son's, my older son, the reason I even got in this business to start with, I was in the insurance business for 20-something years.
Okay.
And when Obamacare came out, they started mandating a lot of my small businesses to have health insurance.
Right.
And I had worked all this time building this block of business.
Right.
And they were saying, we're not doing that.
Right.
You're not going to mandate us. So
Exactly.
we're a family business. So they let everybody else go. They didn't have to carry it on the family
Okay.
because they're all officers or whatever now in the business. They didn't even have to carry workers' comp. Now they could make some money.
Exactly.
So they were making more than they were before, just with a smaller crowd.
Right.
Because
Just
they're
having less
paying
people.
less taxes, less workers' comp, and less
Right.
overhead.
So, what really gave you the idea? So you said you did insurance, right?
Yeah, well, what happened was my older son was living in my basement, and my younger son was going to UK. Well, he ended up and joining the National Guard,
Okay.
and he went to the 223rd in Louisville for MP.
Right.
Well,
to train.
the next thing you know, they got him in Fort Leonard Wood out in Arkansas somewhere,
Oh,
or
wow.
St. Louis or somewhere.
Yeah.
And about 3 or 4 weeks later, he's in Baghdad.
Really?
And he's on a 3-man Humvee team, and they're the
Wow.
first ones out, the last one's back. So I had a lot to think about.
Oh, you were stressed out.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
and I wasn't doing Skype or anything else like that, so I just I would email him, and he'd email me back.
Right.
And so I said, I got to find something else to do. Well, what I did, I had a cheese spread, and my wife said, well, why don't you
Start making it.
why don't you make this and
Right.
take it to
And-
the parties? So we did.
And was that so that you could have a job for your son so that he wasn't?
It's coming from a higher power because I have no idea what I was doing.
Right.
And I'm making a cheese spread, and we take it to a party, and it was a big tailgate at UK football.
Mhm.
And some guy gets up on the table. I mean, there was 100 people at this thing. And he goes, "Who made this Swiss cheese?" And she goes, No, don't say nothing. See, somebody's got them sick. And I said, I did. He goes, I need to talk to you. And I said, all right. And I'm like, what the heck?
Best Swiss I've ever had.
He comes running over to him. He goes, man, I work on cruise ships. I'm all over the world. I've never had anything like this. And I said, this guy's drunk. He's been smoking something. Yeah, he's not right. And he goes, no, man, you need to get this on the market. And I went, you've lost your mind.
Right, like why
You
is
just
mine
think of it
different?
so casual, just
Yeah.
bringing a dip.
Yeah.
And so he goes, no, you really do. I promise you, because I've never had anything like it. And everybody, all my friends would say, oh, this is so good. And I said, okay, well, let's try something. So we made it. And a friend of my wife's said, we're having a Christmas event.
Yeah.
And we bring a cooler of that. And it was at Corman's.
The Railroad House?
No, Corman's, they were like a decoration store.
Oh, okay.
Over there on Industry.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And they said, we're having our Christmas show. We sell ornaments. We sell trees. And everybody's coming in. We've invited all these people.
Christmas
Why don't
party.
you set up a little thing and sample, and you can sell your cheese spreads?
Yeah.
Well, I took one little cooler of about 36 cheese spreads.
They were
sold out in like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I went, what the heck was going on here?
And that's where it started.
And she goes, well, you got to start doing. She goes, well, you need to get Kentucky Proud. I said, okay, so whatever. So we got Kentucky Proud. And then we got in the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And so she and I would do the farmer's market. My mom, my sister, and Rose would come in and make it in my basement.
Right.
For the
whole
farmer's
family.
market. And the next thing you know, Saturday and Sunday, we spent the rest of the time there.
Right.
And during the week, I'd go back to work for the insurance business.
Right.
Well,
I bet that was awesome though that you
it kept me going out of my thinking about
Right.
what he was doing over in Baghdad.
Right, exactly.
And so the next thing you know, we're in the Sunday market. So it's Saturdays and Sundays. And he got back from Baghdad in 2009.
2009. Okay.
2009, my younger son graduated UK in accounting. But until he goes back and gets his master's or his CPA, he couldn't sit for the test.
Right.
So I said, and I just gotten the cheese spreads in Kroger's.
Oh, so that's where you were like
So I say, okay, here we go, guys. Let's go we got to find a place.
family business.
And so they said, well, we're all in.
Right.
So the next thing, so we've been kicking each other in the shins now for 12 years.
That's
this
awesome.
October. 13 years this October, or this past January. And it's like, see you tomorrow, boys. See you tomorrow, Dad.
That's awesome. I bet you wouldn't trade that for the world.
Oh, it's been great. We've
awesome.
enjoyed it. It's not as good an income as before,
Right.
but I don't miss the other at all.
Oh,
This is so much more rewarding to have somebody come in and say, God, that's the best sandwich I've ever had. And you're like,
right.
well, my sons and we all came up with that. We made
Exactly.
That, so.
We talk a lot about like feelings and like what keeps us going a lot on the podcast, and that's awesome because where some people wouldn't, you're trading the finance for your feelings.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's if you do something and you enjoy it, it's not like work.
You're less worried about the money.
Yeah,
Right.
you know it's going to come, but you're happier when you get up.
Right.
You don't get up and go,
We got to go to work
I got to
again.
go to work
Got to
today.
do insurance
Yep.
today.
I'm not doing that.
Right.
I got to drive all the way to Carrollton, or I got to drive all the way down to Bowling Green today, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You try to talk yourself out of it, and then you pick yourself
Right.
up and say, okay, let's go. We got to go.
You got to pull yourself
Well,
to
this
work.
one, you get up, and I get up 5:30, and I go to bed at 8:30.
Yeah.
And I get up, it doesn't matter. I got.
But you're happy to get up though because
Yeah.
you're working with your family.
Yeah, get in my
Your own
office at my
business.
house and get my coffee in me and take the dog for a walk. And
Right.
I'm ready to go back.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm at the shop by 8:30. So.
That's awesome. Jack, do you want to tell him your story about how you heard about
I
dads?
didn't know you were a real person.
Uh-oh.
Like a few years ago though. No, because I seen your beer cheese in like my mother's fridge one day, and it said Dad's. Obviously had your face on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's just a brand. I don't even know how I ended up at this shop. I went in there, and then you brought me my food, and I seen you. I was like, this dude's a real person. Like what the?
Well, I got another little story about that one. I didn't have a label,
Yeah.
and this is once again fate. And a friend of mine I called that I had done business with before in the insurance business. I said, look, man, I got my cheese spreads in all the liquor barns.
Right.
So I go into the liquor barn, and I got this white cheese spread. And
Yeah.
I said, I got this cheese spread, and everybody tells me I got to get it on the market.
So what was it? Well, I'm sure did you already establish the business as Dad's before when it was
No.
just a cheese spread?
At the farmer's market,
It's
I
just a
just had
label.
a plain label. I wrote
Cheese
DF
spread.
on it for her, my wife. It was her stepfather was named DF.
Okay.
DF Hill. And I said, well, I'll just do something with DF on it.
Right.
And so it was DF's, cheese spreads. Or
Right.
whatever.
Something pretty simple.
Yeah. And I didn't know label. We just wrote it on there with a marker. It was
Right.
stupid.
White label marker.
It didn't matter.
Very basic.
Yeah. So then I took it over to the liquor barn at Hamburg. And I showed it to them. And I said, is the deli manager here? And she goes, what do you got? And I said, I got a cheese spread. She goes, is it beer cheese? I said, well, in Kentucky, everything's beer cheese.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, this is a cheese spread. She goes, well, you're in luck. The buyer's here today from
Really?
Louisville. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, like you
walk
said,
in out of the
fate.
blue, guy. I'm telling you, there's too many things that gives you a ooh moment here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I go up and she comes out. She goes, what do you got? I got a cheese spread. She goes, well, it looks like rice. And I said, well, it's the white block of Swiss. And she goes, well, what's the greenery in it? I said, that's some fresh chives. And she goes, well, and I put it on a cracker and she takes one bite and she goes, come over here. She brought the deli manager over. They brought all their people over. They started breaking people off the register.
Oh, wow.
Try this. She handed me her card. And it's like a dog chasing a car.
Yeah.
You catch it. You don't know what to do with it. She hands me a card and says, I need it in all 6 stores before Derby.
Wow.
I'm a salesman. I said, sure, I can do it. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Wow.
I had
So
no
you so
barcode. I had no label. I had nothing.
You just-
that's
yeah.
wild.
So you start figuring stuff out. So I call a friend of mine that I had in the insurance business, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, what do you got? And I said, I got a cheese spread that I got to get in.
I got 40 bottles. What do I do?
I mean, what do I do? I get it in 6 stores before Derby,
Right.
and it's the 1st of April. So
Oh gosh, you're pressed for time like
Exactly,
that.
You got like a
weeks.
month,
Yeah.
month and a half, 3 weeks.
3 weeks. And so I go, he goes, well, I got to tell you. And he tried it. And he goes, it's good. He goes, but I'll tell you this. He goes, it's going to cost you that leg, that foot, and that hand for
To
me
make
to
as
do
much.
it.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be worth it. He said, but I've got an intern,
Yeah.
and I'll oversee it, and he can do it for you, and you pay him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, whatever. So he interviewed me one day,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, well, Mr. Caudill, what, tell me about yourself. And I was telling him, about coaching everywhere. And and we had, at the time, my wife, the boy's mother, was a nurse.
Yeah.
So we had some special needs foster kids too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another thing.
They call you Dad.
Yeah, they single parent again. And we'd have them during the week, and they go home for the weekend. It took me till Wednesday to get them back on track again.
Right.
So anyway, he goes, well, I think I got enough information. He said, what's the DF for? And I told him that was for my
Your wife's
wife,
dad.
her dad,
Yeah.
her stepfather. And he goes, okay. So he sends me back. I don't know if you've seen the label or not. I don't have one of those with me, but it has Dad's favorites.
Right.
on
Dad's
it.
favorites at the bottom, and then your picture.
Well, this one he just sent back was Dad's
Favorites without a picture.
And I said, well, is it taken? He goes, no. He said, you can trademark it if you want. I said, okay. He said, well, I need to see you again. Come on in. So I go in, and he goes, stand over there by the wall and he'd take your picture. He goes, oh, no, put the heck up. And I've had one of these since I was like 9.
That fits your character so
And
much.
so I put it back on, and he took a picture and digitalized it, and that's where that. And I tell everybody, I'm just a cartoon character. That's all I am.
I thought that. I did.
That's awesome.
So he put it there. I said, well, and I showed it to my wife. I said, what do you think? She said, I love it. And she goes, if you can do that, that's great, because it puts a face with the name Dad's
right.
Favorites.
Exactly.
And so we did that, and then I had to work on getting a barcodes for the cheese
To sell
because
the
they
product,
can
right.
scan it in
Yeah.
the stores. So that was a whole nother thing. Had to buy a printer, so I'm already running into money.
Yeah, you're running into a lot of the business part of it. Like you're trying to
Exactly.
figure everything
and
out.
I haven't made a dime.
Right. That can be scary though.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is.
I'm sure you were very stressed. You were on a time schedule, 3
Oh, well,
weeks.
I had another job too, and it was helping foot the bill for it.
Right.
But so that's the way it turned out. And then I told the boys that I'm, you know, and they said, well, we're all in, Dad. You got it in Kroger's.
Yeah. When
Let's
did you
see what
realize? When did you realize you had to quit your job, like to maintain?
Well, I kept until I could draw a paycheck.
Right.
And that was 3 years.
3 years. So did you do Dad's and?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did both.
Yeah. And then what I did was I finally sold my block of business,
Mm-hmm.
and just because it was dwindled to nothing.
Yeah.
Because your renewals are what your people, when they renew their
Right.
their,
And then
their
Obamacare.
policies. Yeah. And then I said, it's going the wrong way for me, and it was better. So I didn't renew my license, and because it came up that I had to do my CE continuing education and pay all these, and I said, I'm done.
I'm gonna just stick with Dad's.
So here we go, and that's when we
Full
set
throttle.
the table out there, and it kept going, and I mean it's one of those moments when
Right.
everything comes together, and you make the PO, and you go,
Wow.
we had 3 weeks to do that,
Right.
and here we made it.
So how did that feel though? Because I know
Well, it's a large sense of accomplishment.
that's what I was about to say. That 3 weeks, I'm sure that whole 3 weeks you were like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?
Oh,
But as soon as they're all done and they're in the stores, I'm sure it's such a big sigh of relief.
it was.
Yeah.
And to see
100%.
it on the stores, and then I would go around and sample in the stores just to get them to try it.
Right, and also get a face to the
And once they tried it, they would take it to a party, and guess what?
a friend tells a friend.
Exactly.
That's
all the
awesome.
friends came back and said, "Okay, here we go. We got
That's awesome.
Where'd you get that? I got that at Liquor Barn. Well, here we go.
I did have a question for you. So, and to be honest with you, I think that you've answered this question
Uh-oh, what
without
was that?
answering it. Okay, so one of the questions I had written down was if you would open up another store. I don't think this is duplicable.
Well, it was. We had 3 at one time.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
We opened up our spec location on Main Street, downtown Lexington. And I had a friend that comes in the deli, and he's retired from Yum Brands.
Okay.
And I asked him to come down, and he said, well, I'll go look at it with you. So we went down there, and he kind of did some measurements and whatnot. Well, he laid it out perfect.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like the stars aligned.
Oh, it was work. It was in an old shotgun type building, and it was between where Great Construction is, the old Wolf Wiles building on the corner, and Barney Miller's, that whole
Okay.
strip.
Yeah.
And we were there for 3 years, and the rent was going up, and he didn't want to negotiate the things he hadn't done in the building. Well, what happened, I think, was that he already had somebody lined up to buy the
Right.
whole block. Well, Great Construction bought the whole block,
So
all
he
the
was
way
just
down
like-
to Barney Miller's. But in the meantime, that 3 years was up. I had paid off all the debt.
Really?
We hadn't made that much money, but I paid off all the debt. We were ready to start making some
Yeah.
money.
Wow,
And
that
get the rug
sucks.
pulled out from under you. So that's the way it worked. And then, so that lease was up in March, but in February we opened up inside Blue Stallion Brewery,
Okay.
and they had a coat closet. Well, my guy came in that was from Yum Brands, and I told him about it. And he goes, "What?"
Right.
He goes, 7 by 10. He goes,
That's not, what can I do with 7x10?
That's 700 square feet. What are you doing with
Right.
that? That's So he walks over and we look at it. He goes, all right, that's 70 square feet. What am I saying? So he's measuring. It's a coat closet. I mean, that thing
Like
is
literally, yeah.
like right here. So he measures the equipment.
Yeah.
He goes, we need to go back down there. So we go back down there. It was their keg closet.
Just couldn't make it work.
And he measures it up, and he goes, if you don't hire any short people, you can make this work. He goes, so I said, well, what do you think? And he goes, let me look at it. And this was on a Friday.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll get up with you next week. I get up Saturday morning, in my email, he had it to specs.
Really?
He was challenged by a challenge.
Right. So he wanted to get it done.
Oh, he goes,
Right.
this is going to work. Call me.
Yeah.
So we made it work. And 3 years,
Same thing.
same thing.
Oh wow.
COVID hit.
Oh.
dang.
So really, COVID is the reason why pretty much y'all don't have 2 shops.
Exactly. So we're in
Wow.
we're in COVID. March of 2020, we had the biggest week we'd ever had down there.
Really? That's so
It was Mardi
unfortunate.
Gras, and we did a whole big thing. I don't remember if it was. I think it was Mardi Gras. I don't think it was St. Patrick's Day. I think it was Mardi Gras. Anyway, we had
That sucks.
and then all of a sudden they couldn't open back up
because of
because
COVID.
they were a bar.
Right.
So we brought everybody back over to Garden Springs, and I call it our international headquarters.
That's awesome, though.
So everybody showed up over there, and steadily they got, kind of, well, we're doing everything curbside.
Right.
I kept everybody. Then some of them went and got other jobs, which was
Work
fine with
part-time.
me.
Right.
And had part-time. And then they could, once Blue Stallion opened back up, they only opened up 3 to 10 Tuesday through Saturday.
So it just wasn't what you all were.
And I said, we've lost all of our lunch business. Well, they said, well, why don't you do a dinner menu? And I said, that's not what we do.
That's not Dad's, right?
So we were in agreement on it. They were great guys. The Donnellys were great, and they brought us in, and we were a guest in their house, and they did a great job with us and worked with us.
When you had
on everything, but
when you had multiple shops, were you? Because I'll be honest with you, one thing that I think makes dads is that you're there.
Right.
That you can control the environment. You're the owner. You're the business owner. And then when people go in there, like I said, when you served me my food for the first time, I was like, wow, Dad is really here.
Well,
what I mean?
They're going to get that at the international headquarters,
right?
But actually, the others were doing almost the same volume that we were doing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because, like I said, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's not easy to duplicate.
But once you had the sandwich, that's what
right
brought you back. Not necessarily seeing me. I was just a little bonus.
Right, you're the bonus.
But so we backed out of there, and now we're down. But with 3 locations, I will tell you this: bigger's not always better.
Oh, I agree.
You do a lot more number,
mm-hmm.
But you make the same.
Right, exactly. Same.
Because you got more employees, you got more payroll.
Right.
You've got more workers' comp. You got more.
It's all about the volume of people.
Everything that you've got, because it's a labor-intensive job.
Right, exactly.
Where we have 12 working, we had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had 8 at the downtown location.
Yeah.
And they were humping the same hours.
Right.
That we were.
Yeah.
11 to 3, and they were just killing it.
But
we made everything for them that morning.
Oh, so you were taking
and
it over
we cut
there.
all the meat for them, and we would take it down there to them.
Right.
So, they could put it together, but it's still, by the time you look at that and the taxes on it, it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, like you said, you're still making about the same thing.
And so we figured out, anybody asks me if I want to do it again, I tell them no. And I say, but you might want to talk to my sons because they're going to be taking over. I'm trying to figure out an exit strategy where I work less than, But anyway.
Do you think just off of your own intuition that they'll do that? Or do you think that?
I promise you. They want to do it because somebody will ask them about it and they go, hell no.
Right.
We're not opening up another one.
Yeah.
Because they know what they had to go through to do that. And I found out that there's another little story that I went to a meeting and a group took me down to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And put me up. I think it was the Gaylord Hotel.
Oh my gosh, I love that place.
Well, it was
that
nice.
place is awesome.
Well, Pat Riley was the keynote speaker.
Okay.
And they had all these people that came in from all over the United States, from Texas.
So it's like a big convention.
And it was people. There was restaurant owners.
Yeah.
And that wanted to see how they could expand.
Catch a bite of.
Right. So they brought. You had all these different meetings you could go to.
Yeah.
Well, they had different rooms. Well, this room, I went in there and I couldn't even look and get a seat. It was 60 people in there.
Oh, wow.
And
in a small little room, I'm sure.
So I looked up this other one. It says, so you think you want a franchise? I said, let's go to that one. I walk in there, and there's 10 people in there, and there's 5 panelists. And they go, well, let's just do a round table.
Right.
And so we did a round table, and they said,
why is it? Yeah. What?
They said, well, what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm in Alabama. I've got 3 barbecue places, and I'm trying to figure out if this is something I want to do, a franchise. And what do you do, Mr. So-and-so? And he goes, well, I'm down in Florida. I got a nice seafood place, and I'm looking at expanding. And they said, okay. And then they got this other guy. He goes, well, what do you do? And he goes, I got a burger place. And, it's all over the place.
Right, just a little bit of everything.
And then he got around to me, and he goes, Mr. Caudill, what do you do? And I said, well, I got a sandwich shop. We're open 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week. And their jaw dropped open. They said, how are you even in business? You know, what are you doing?
It's the people. You know
And
what I mean?
said,
It's
we also make a line of cheese spreads that we have in Kroger's, and that's what we use on our sandwiches. Then they started leaning in. They go, now, what are you doing?
They said
Right.
Kroger.
Now,
and then they
what
got in.
do you got here? And I said, yeah, they sell it in the Kroger's down here in Nashville. Well, they used to. I don't know if they still do or not. But they were being able to buy it out of the Louisville warehouse. That's where we're in.
yeah.
And I said, we started making a pepper sauce, and it's been selling real well, too. And they go,
Yeah.
what?
Right.
And they said, how many people you usually see in a day? I said, 200-300. They said, in 4 hours?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's hectic in there, but
And
you
I
all
said,
handle it so well.
You know, we're a Southern style deli, and we have stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to find a Rushmore,
Right.
a Mount
You
Rushmore
all
until
have
the students
some
found it and called it the Rushmore.
Yeah, you all have some very unique sandwiches, and like I said, I think I've already said this, but I think that's one thing that makes y'all so successful and so like well known, especially locally, because you're so unique. And you know, and I was reading some of your reviews online, and you'll never go there and get a bad sandwich. I'm not joking. I've been there plenty of times, and I've never once ever been like, I'm not satisfied with this food. You know, it's always good.
Well, I go back, and every now and then I'll go back and look at the hater.
Yeah.
And I see where he's from, and I don't want to be that guy.
It's one out of.
I'm like, okay, well, this guy, he doesn't even know what cheese spread is, and he doesn't even know what it. You know, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
So I said, I'll just take it with a grain of salt. You don't react to him. You just let him move on.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Move on with your day.
Yeah. So have a good day. But I got another little story for you for the soups.
All right.
So we're making everything on the stovetop, and my son takes it over and he goes, Dad, I got to have something better. He goes, there's a big restaurant, auction going on.
Yeah.
He said, let's go take a look at it. Well, it was all of the Fayette County was getting rid of their making food.
Really?
In some of their places, like Crawford Elementary or Crawford, whatever.
Right.
And
they're trying to bring in.
They're bringing in pizzas and they're bringing stuff like that in. Well, they had this big giant 40-gallon gas, electric with a big top, and a stainless steel boat paddle.
Wow.
And it's gas and electric, and you clean it in the bowl, and you pull the plug, and you get all the water, you put it back in there, you run your 3-compartment right there, and it's done. And I looked around, and nobody was bidding on it. All of a sudden, I hear, $25. $25. I went, what? I said 50, and I look over, and my son's going, Dad, stop. That was me.
Oh.
So I outbid my son for
That's
$25.
funny.
We got it for 50. I looked up the boat paddle that they used. It was $150.
Just the paddle.
Used.
Wow.
And I said, we stole that. So we look it up online, and it's about a $10,000 worth piece of equipment. But it's used.
Yeah.
And they came and hooked it up, and it's been a champ. He can fix 4 soups in that thing starting at about 8:30. And by the time we open up at 9, it can boil water in like 2 minutes.
That's actually very impressive.
And so here we got this thing in there.
For $50. That's really, talk about a good business move.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, he found something else online one time.
Could have got it for 25 though.
Yeah, could have got it for 25. I said it's worth 50.
Yeah, 100%.
So we found a school down in Virginia that was cleaning out one of their kiosks.
Right.
And it was like a taco bar.
Yeah.
He said, Dad, they got some refrigeration down there. And we're getting ready to open up downtown. He goes, let's go. So we rent a truck.
No.
And we take off. And we go down there. We buy 4 or 5 big pieces. But you had to buy the whole kiosk.
Right. You couldn't just buy.
No. And we got the bid.
Yeah.
So they said, you got the bid. You got to come get it.
Right.
So we go and pack out whatever we could take, and anything that we didn't want, we just left.
Right. You got to haul it all back though.
So we hauled it all back, and we used it at the one on Main Street.
Yeah.
A lot of the equipment. And if it died, we just take it to the dead yard and get rid of it. But anyway, that's how we bought a lot of stuff. You find out how to make it work. When something's not working, you make it work.
Right.
But
I love that.